Hi students. In this video I'd like to discuss and just illustrate the different curses that you will encounter within Excel when you do use Excel. So the first one is this white cursor. It's used for selecting cells. So what do they mean by that? If you'll notice, as soon as I select a cell, and you know which cell I'm in now, there it will tell you in my name box. If you remember in the previous video, I'm in I46. So there I'm in I, and that is row 46. Great. So this white cross is just used for selecting cells. So I could, if I wanted to highlight the cell, basically I'd highlight those that series of cells. And then when I highlight, you'll notice that the first cell that I highlight is in white and the rest is blue, and often students think that this has not been highlighted. However, it's just an indication of where my highlighting begins. Okay, so it is highlighted. The next one that I want to show you is the I-beam. So they say here that the I-beam, which indicates the cursor position when editing a cell entry. So for example, if I were to type in the number 50, do you notice that if I rest my cursor within that cell, do you notice that I-beam? Great. So basically it's when your cell is active, okay? Then you'll notice the I-beam cursor. Great. And if it's inactive, then you'll notice that the cursor then changes to that white cross. Great. The next one that I want to show you is the fill handle, using for copying formulas or extending a data series. So you'll remember that I spoke to you about autofilling. So if we were to type in 50 and we were to autofill it is when we leave our cursor on that little square and it turns into that solid black cross. Do you see that solid black cross? It's much the same as this solid black cross that you see over here. Okay, so basically it turns into a solid black cross, and what are you expecting if I drag it down? You're expecting me to see 50, okay, because you're taking that series and you want to copy it down. Great. So that is also called what we call autofilling. Okay, the next one that I want you to that you come across is this little arrow over here. It says here to select cells on the worksheet. Okay, so selects the whole row or column when positioned on the number or letter heading label. So what do they mean by that? So for example, if I were to just click on the column J, you'll notice, can you see that? There's my arrow, my black arrow that's indicated over there. Much the same as that. So if I leave my cursor on the J, there you'll notice the column J. And then if I leave my cursor on the row, it highlights the entire row. And you'll notice there's my cursor. It's no longer the white cross, but as soon as I click it on or leave it on number 68, there I've got my black arrow. Okay. Then we come to the next one where it says at borders of column headings dragged to widen a column. So like we said in the previous example where we were going to type in Monday. So Excel is quite great because it's already programmed. It knows after Monday comes Tuesday, and you can do the same thing with the months of the year as well. So if we had to type in January, we could then type in January, and then it would also drag the rest of the months, okay, across. So we're just taking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as an example now, and you'll notice here it says at borders of column headings. You'll notice that the Y you can't see in that cell, okay, and this one appears as if it's gone to the next cell. So what are we going to do? We need to increase our column size. So what we'll do is we'll leave our cursor between I and J, and when we click on it, we can drag it, and there it increases the column. It's either that way, or what you could do is you'll just double click on it. So you'll leave your cursor between I and J. That arrow must appear, the cross with the two arrows on either side. You double click and there you have it. So what you could also do is you could actually highlight that entire series, okay, and then At the end of that series, you could also just double click on it, 1, 2, and it will also increase your, so let's just do it again. So I'm just going to undo. Great. So you'll notice this is the undo button. One of my very favorite buttons, and will be yours too, because if you've done a command or if you've done an action, you can always just undo that action by clicking on the undo button over here. Okay, so we were saying about increasing the column width, because this is quite, it's hiding the Y. So all we'll do is we'll highlight Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we leave our cursor at the end of K, and it increases the, oh, it should increase, but okay, so it didn't, but it should increase the entire, or all 3 columns. Yes, all 3 columns. Okay, so that is according to columns. Now we're looking at the second last one, which says at borders of row letters, drag to increase height of row. Okay, so the same thing that happens in your row. You'll notice that here's your row 67. There's your arrow if you highlight the entire row. But if you were to increase the row, do you see that? I'm leaving my cursor between 67 and 68, and it's got that little arrow over there. Okay, so I'll click on it, and there you'll notice there it says height is equal to 15 or 20 pixels. Okay, so what I can do is I can either increase the height like that, and there, look how it increases the height as much as I wanted to increase it to. Or what you could do is, and in most cases there's more than one way of doing things, you could right click on the row, and you could also select row height, and you could type in, say for example, if you wanted the row height to be 60, you can just type in 60 and you'll say okay, and there it's increased your row height. And then finally, the one that I really, most students find difficulty in terms of understanding what this is all about, but this little arrow appears wherever, like over here. So where does that appear? So the arrow is basically where it says it appears when positioned at the border of a cell. So you'll notice there, if I leave my cursor on at the border of the cell, can you see there's the arrow that appears? So what does it do? It says here it's used to move the entire content of the cell to another cell destination. So if I were to leave my cursor on Monday, I'll keep my cursor, my click in on that, and there it moves the entire cell content to another cell. Okay, so you could do the same thing. If I say undo, you could highlight all 3 cells, and say for example you didn't want it to be in that row. Okay, row 58 for example, you want it to be in row 61, which is over here. So all you'll do is you leave your cursor on it, and you'll drag the entire section to another cell destination. And those are the different cursor keys that you will definitely get into contact with when working on Excel. And it's important to know the difference between all of them, so that it will make working on Excel such a pleasure. Thank you. Goodbye.